Now some thoughts from a Republican congressman who also has red lines on his mind. He is Adam Kinzinger, who serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee and who served himself in Iraq and Afghanistan. He is now a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard. We spoke earlier this evening. Congressman, on Twitter today, you compared President Trump's turnaround on Iran to Obama's turnaround, famous withdrawal from the red line on Syria. You think there's a direct comparison here. Tell us why.
Yeah, I certainly think there's a risk. Look, the president has every right to not strike, and I disagree with that decision. I think the problem is how publicly this played out, putting out basically an arrow, putting out a line, and then backing away from it. And if you remember back in 2013 when the president said the use of chemical weapons will result in X, Y, and Z, the problem is when he didn't do it, people then turned around and didn't take us seriously, and there was a cost. And I worry that that'll be the case in this case. I think the way this so publicly played out today was actually pretty hurtful, I think, in the long run.
To your credit, Congressman, you are a rare Republican who will disagree with the president. You will criticize him. You certainly agree with him on a number of things, but you will, when you think he's crossed a line, you will say that. Why aren't more Republicans in a case like this, where the parallels are, frankly, clear? And in fact, you could say President Trump got even closer this time before pulling back. Why do so few of your fellow Republicans, why are they so few of them willing to do so?
So today I've actually seen there have been a number, not everybody, but there have been a number of people that have spoken out and been concerned with this. But I think a lot of it, look, comes down to he's the commander-in-chief. They want to support him. He's obviously the commander-in-chief of the same party they are. And there's a concern in that. And frankly, quite frankly, Jim, and you know this because you talk to a lot of members of Congress, a lot of members of Congress don't know a ton of details about foreign policy. So it's hard for them to really jump to, we should have done this, or this would have been the response or the reason. I think in the bottom line of this is if Iran uses a weapon to take out an asset of the United States of America, they ought to lose that weapon.
To be fair, yes, the president is commander-in-chief, but President Obama was commander-in-chief, and Republicans at the time took no issue in laying into him, President Trump among them, for breaking through that red line.
You're absolutely right. And I remember in 2013 how vocal I was with my own party. I said, you have to treat President Obama in this decision with the same standards you would treat a Republican president. You would give a Republican president the authority to do this. And if you remember, there were some in kind of the extremes of our party that just said, we don't want to give this president leverage to do it. I frankly think that's happening in the Democrats with President Trump on some of this right now. The reality is, if you were here in 2013 and you made statements and you see the similarities, you have to be consistent. That's the message I send to my friends everywhere.
I spoke to a senior administration official this afternoon who said that now the White House is again focusing simply on economic sanctions against Iran, not military options. That's a pretty remarkable turnaround. This time last night, the country was bracing itself, if not for war, for military action, and now that seems to be off the table, at least for now. What does that herky-jerk, if you want to call it that, or that whiplash on policy, what does that do to American credibility in the region?
So I think that remains to be seen. I think the sanctions are working. I think they are devastating Iran, which is why Iran is lashing out like they are. You know, I would like to see at least the destruction of the site that took out this drone at the very minimum. But that said, it's not happening. What does it do to the credibility? I think it depends how it plays out from here. If Iran does another thing similar to that, I think they would be underestimating the president to think that he again wouldn't act. I think the pressure's on him enough. I think he came close enough that any other provocation would actually lead to a strike probably bigger than was planned last night. So I think this will be judged in history. It may be a blip that we never talk about again. It may be a defining moment either way, but I think time's going to have to play this one out.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, always good to have you on the broadcast.
You bet. See ya.